Hi, and welcome to the Atlanta History Center's first virtual genealogy program. Our program today is for Juneteenth. We are very excited to be bringing you this program today. If you'll bear with us, we're going to see how the technology goes. Our program today is about the Freeman's Bureau. These are a wonderful set of records that were created by this organization known as the United States Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands. And with us today to talk about these records is Emma Davis Hamilton. Emma is a board member of the Georgia Genealogical Society. She is also a past president of the Atlanta chapter Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society. Emma is a very popular presenter here at the Atlanta History Center, and we're very grateful to have her here today with us to talk about these wonderful records. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Emma.
Thank you, Sue. It is my pleasure, and thanks for the invitation to talk about this most valuable, underused set of records. I am happy today. So let's get started. And we call this the Freeman's Bureau, but the official name, is the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands. And I want to emphasize, and a lot of people overlook that when we talk about refugees, this is not only the formerly enslaved African Americans. The Freeman's Bureau was there to service also the white citizens in the South. And when you see refugees, that's who they're referring to. Freedmen are the African Americans, and of course the land that's been abandoned. Now the purpose of the Bureau, I like to equate the Bureau kind of like FEMA, to understand, when there's a disaster somewhere, particularly, let's go back to Katrina, was total disaster. And FEMA comes in to kind of get things back on a normal setting, providing the citizens with what they need to get their lives back together. Well, that was the purpose of the Bureau. Everything is going to chaos down south. There is no government. So the Freedmen's come in, they're under the auspices of the military, and their purpose is to assist the citizens, both white and black, in particular the black citizens. Can you imagine? They're there. They have nowhere to go. They own nothing. They're just there. There's no I-95. They're not going up north to relatives. So what they need is, they need food, of course. Some of the principal things are getting them rations, getting them shelter, and they also provided transportation if there was some place they knew they could go back to. Many of them remember that they had come from Virginia or South Carolina, and if they could get back with family, they would be okay. And also one of the big things they did was to solemnize marriages. Freedmen had been married, assuming themselves married since the beginning, and they wanted to get those marriages solemnized. And they also had to live, so there was this agreement. The Freeman Bureau kind of was the referee between the planters and the freed people, the newly freed people. And they had these labor contracts, and we'll be showing you some of those. Now, before we move any further, I want to make a distinction here. There's the Freeman Bank, and there's the Freeman's Bureau. There's a difference. The bank is totally separate, has nothing to do, is not associated with the Freedmen's Bureau at all. In fact, the name, if you look, there's the Freedmen's Bureau, and then the Freedman, M-A-N thing. So don't confuse the two. Both are a rich source of records for genealogy research, but they're totally different. So the way I'm going to do this is a very short presentation. So this is a brief overview. At the end, I'm going to tell you some things where you can go and get a little bit more detail, but this is very brief. This is like a summary. All right, so what we're going to do now is, I think I'm going to just show you some of the records I pulled to give examples of that. I don't have examples of everything, but some of the ones that will have the rich genealogical information in it, possibly. So now I'm going to go down here. I'm new at this, so if you see blunders, I'm a novice. Blame it on Sue. Sue is my teacher, so let's see. Okay, I'm going to try to share with you now. Okay, share my screen, hold on. All right, I'm just going to pass through. This is short, so I'm going to pass through some examples. First, so you got to work. You've been working on a plantation for free for 400 years. Now it's time to negotiate with these planters. That's the kind of work, that's the only work. Like I said, there's no businesses in town, so you're going to continue to do this now. But the thing is now the Bureau wants these people to be paid for what they do. So they got these labor contracts. Now they look a little fishy sometimes. Now in the labor contracts, let me give a shout out here. One of my colleagues, William Duran, who is the Freemans Bureau indexing man, has shared some of his information with me and helped me. So I want to give him credit for a lot of the stuff that's in this presentation. So here is an agreement, and in these labor contracts, what we're pointing out here, you will possibly have the name of the former owner. This is agreement between Smith, and this is in South Carolina, and this is agreement with him and Henry Lowes. And Henry Lowes, these are possibly the former slave owners, and we know in this case this was the former slave owner. Okay, let's look at another one. This one was very interesting. So can you imagine, I've done something here, Sue. This is interesting. You know, you had to sign, these labor contracts actually look like just legalized slavery. And, the terminology that this man uses, he says, in all things, he's going to demean himself. He's going to demean himself to be a servant, to work for this former family of his. But you know, this was the only work you had. So, and it wasn't equitable. The pay was not equitable. In most instances, what they did, you had to still pay for your own equipment. Sometimes you had to pay for your fee, and they took sometimes a little rent out for the former slave shack you was in. So most times, this is a precursor to sharecropping, and most times it wasn't fair. So he said, I'm going to demean myself. I mean, he had no choice to do this work. And this is a similar. This man and this man is saying that I'm going to do this. I'm going to act like a slave. In fact, what this labor is saying is telling him he's going to, you know, he's going to work for him and his wife, the mistress. You can't see the whole thing, but in this contract, he's saying, I'm going to obey whatever they say. They even had times of when you can go and when you can come. You couldn't leave the plantation. You couldn't have guests. You couldn't see your children. You couldn't see your relatives. In fact, all it was now, it was a document legalizing slavery. That's what I say. Now this was very common. Former planters wanted the children, they're young, 8 to 16 years old. Those are able-bodied workers. And this is not an unusual incident. This is a woman who is attempting to get her child back from the owner. This is pervasive. You see this all through the records, that they did not want to give their children. And this lady had not even signed a labor agreement. Some of the labor agreements you see are going to actually ask for the children. They're asking for the children. They'll sign one with the mother or the father to have the children work for them, and they're supposed to pay the mother for the children's work, or the father, whoever the adult. But this is very common, them holding on to the children and putting the adults off the plantation. Okay, I've done something here. And this is something you would see. Many enslaved people had families other places, maybe knew where they were, had been keeping in touch, knew that they were there. Maybe they were like new in the last 10 years. And so what the Bureau would do, if you could prove that you could go someplace else and then sustain life independently without the help of the government. They would pay you, give you transportation to get there. Sometimes you see examples where, like this one is Sam and 6 other people, and I've seen those where they will have just a whole group of people. You may have like one person being the sponsor, and they're trying to get 20 or 25 people back to a destination, back somewhere where they can prove that they can take care of themselves and be off the roads of the government. Now what this is, I don't know if you can see that well, I hope you can. The other thing that the Freeman's Bureau did was provide for healthcare, hospitals, clinics, and this is an interesting one. This is in Augusta, Georgia, and this is a smallpox hospital. And I found this recently, and I want to follow up on this, but you will see all kind of medical dispensaries, just people coming in for a day, people being admitted, and they will have the illness that they had and the discharge date and if they die. But this was a smallpox hospital. Everyone in this hospital had smallpox. It has the date, the age. Of course, they'll always have their name, and here you will see last names, and they'll have their age, and they have when they were in, when they were out. And like here you see on that road, that I can't point to this, where you can see what if those individuals did not make it out of the hospital. Now that you're going to, just a minute, what you see here, what this is the census. And when you look through these, you will find census. This is a census. They would go in some area, like I said, every Census Bureau field office is different. There were not very many printed forms, or you had a standard form across the board for all the offices. But every field office was different, and they would make, this is a made up form. And periodically in some areas, they did actually a census of count of the people that were in the area. And this is a count of persons in this area. And now these are refugees, but you'll find some, like I said, it's a hit or miss. Everything is not consistent throughout. And it's a great, and I don't have any to show you here, when you find one of actually the African Americans in the area, because that's who we're interested in. In the Bureau, these are some very interesting records, and they have I'm going to talk about that. I should have done that first, but I'm talking about it. Here is one of the things that the free persons wanted to solemnize their marriage. Free people have been living as husband and wife, even though it was illegal for them. There was no legal way they could be married, but one of the most important things they wanted to do is find a way to solemnize their marriage. So this is something the Bureau did. This is a Baker Patterson, and I'm interested in the United States colored troops, and so this is an area in Vidalia, Louisiana, where there was a big camp of them, and they're getting married. There's lots of records in this particular location. And this is Patterson Baker. He's marrying Elizabeth Baker, and it gives the age, it gives the color. Louisiana was particularly hung up on color. It says his father was black, his mother was 1/4 white, and he had been married to then there's she. Now down here, you have to try to read this carefully, as I say, but the second line, this third line is her, she's 40, and she's 3/8. Oh, I don't know how they figured that out, why the father's 1/4, the mother's looks like 2/4 white. And she has been married, living with another man. This is what's interesting in these records, for 2 years. And it says she was separated by a sale. Her husband was sold from her. You see this, every marriage record in every state and every county does not give this detail, but you see this particularly in Mississippi and Louisiana. They document these kinds of things. And from that marriage, they have 2 children together. And I'm going to show you another one. This one fascinated me. This is a gentleman. His name is Hosea Biddle. And he and Betsy Biddle are getting married. But Hosea is 100 years old. And he has been married previously for 25 years to another spouse. And if you see how they got separated, it says by force. I mean, she was sold away probably. But for 25, can you imagine being married to your husband? Most of you who are married are probably married about 25 or more years. And all of a sudden, one day, he's just snatched away. That was so sad for me to think, my heart goes out to Hosea. And Betsy, he's married Betsy, and Betsy is 78. He's 100, she's 78. And Betsy has too lost her husband, but she lost in the way that God meant for us to leave here. She was taken away by death. But that was just touched my heart so much. He's been married 25 years, and he and Betsy are now getting married. Now this is interesting. This is a soldier. His name is Henry Bates, and he's in the United States Colored Troops, and he and Flora are getting married. And it says that he is half white. And I like the reason for, he's been married before too, or he was living with another woman before. And they, the reason for that breakup, he said they mutually agreed. I like that. That was a mutual agreement. And the woman here, Flora, is 33. She's half white. Father's half white, on, and 3/4 white for the mother. And she lived with another man for 3 years. And how did her and the other man become separated? This is what we read about all the time when we're doing genealogy research. She got separated from her husband because when they divided property. You can see that separation from him by dividing property. There was a will apparently, and he got separated from her. And if you read on down here, from that other relationship, they had one child. And when I was able to follow Henry Bebbs in the census, and he was good. In 1870, I go to look to see if that other child is possibly with them. I don't see anyone who could be possibly that other child because of the ages. I see no child of the age before this marriage. So my thought was that the child passed, or God forbid, the child got separated when they divided that property. Now, some of the other records, and I want to go back now to stop sharing. Okay, some of the other records, those were some examples that you're going to get most of the genealogical information from. Now, there are other records, and we all hear about the Freeman's Bureau who came and helped to build schools and do housing. Now, there are a lot of school records in here. I didn't show any of those, but they don't usually have, they're not like censuses of children. You don't have records where these were the students in the class and these were the parents. Most of those records are like administrative records. They're going to show like they may show the teachers and how much money they were paid, what the buildings cost and stuff like that. The Freeman's Bureau also helped build, this is a myth, they also came in and helped build schools. Now, the Freeman's Bureau did not finance those schools. Those local communities financed that schools, usually churches, and the folks themselves got together and built that. Probably what the Freeman's Bureau did provide, they lend them labor. If the soldiers were encamped with them, they allowed the soldiers to participate in the building of the schools, but the individuals got together themselves, got the material together, got the manpower themselves. One of the things that Freemen wanted to do, probably more than anything else, besides solemnizing their marriages, they wanted education. And that is a big push, and you will see that all throughout the bureaus where they're trying to get their children educated. In fact, the situation was so much, they wanted everybody educated, they wanted to educate themselves. So in many instances, the children would go to school in the day, and in the evening, the adults, the parents, after work, they would go to school. Okay, I just wanted to share a few examples with you to see the kinds of things you can find. So now let's talk about the ways you research this. Now, first of all, let me give a caveat. In researching anything, the way information is now, I would tell everyone to go to the internet, put in Freeman's Bureau, and there's a plethora of information. other PowerPoints, lessons, how-dos. Particularly, I'd like to talk about, give a shout out to FamilySearch. FamilySearch has some great tutorials in there. They have a tutorial on the Freeman's Bureau. It'll direct you to, not only to give you a background of it, it will tell you how to research it and where to go. Encourage you. And FamilySearch, you know, is a free website, so do that. Now, let's go now and let's talk about how you research FamilySearch. First of all, I'm going to show you something. All the field offices are where most of the information is going to be. Can you see this book? There are pamphlets, guides. Every state has a guide like this, and they're on the internet also. You can go to the National Archives website. This is a hard copy that I got many years ago, but everything now is on the internet. And when sometimes you'll be puzzled, we'll go through that, but this will tell you, give you a summary of what role and where everything is and what's in it, okay? Now, we'll talk about, we're gonna go to website now. One of the best ways to research the family history and research the Freeman's Bureau, okay. A few years ago, AUGS, the African American Historical and Genealogical Society, partnered with FamilySearch, and they went through some of the field records to do a index, so to help us find our ancestors. Now, let me caution this. This was a project that was done by amateurs, volunteers. You know, I volunteered, and nothing is 100% complete. You should think that. And we have kind of tried to verify some of these things. And I would say only about 45% of what we index might appear, but there's a reason for that. It takes time. Once the indexing is done, there are some other steps that they have to do with these records. There's some verification. There's a technical piece they do, and that takes time. And I mean, it takes time because we finished this project maybe, 3 years ago, but they're still working with it. So if you go in here, never assume that when you go in any kind of record that your ancestor's not there. It's just, you know, nothing is 100%, it's just not. So what you do here, here's how you work this. Let me go. You go in, let's put my guy in there, Henry. I've done a lot of research on Henry. Here, when you get to the project screen, you put in the name. So I'm putting Henry Betts in here. Henry Betts is one of my guys I follow. When you click on it, it's going to take you to FamilySearch. All right. Now, what you see on my screen is because I'm already logged in. But if you are not, it's going to require you to log in. When you go there, what you're going to see, unlike what I see right here, it's going to ask you to log in if you already have an account. If you don't have an account in FamilySearch, there's going to be a second option where you create an account, and it's free. Just go ahead and create an account. When you create an account, it would take you to whatever you were searching. So here's my guy, and I'm just going to make this short. I know he's in Mississippi. He's born in Natchez, Mississippi. And there's the image. There's an image for him. And this is a contract. Let's see. Let's go. If it's not him, it's somebody. And when you click on that contract, you can actually see it. Okay. It's going to come up. And there it is. He's in a contract. But anyway, you go there. Sometimes, like if you're in a John Brown, there may be a lot of John Browns. You just have to click through and see which ones are yours, okay? I won't belabor this because of time, all right? Now let's go back. And I'm going to show you another website. Okay, this is a great website. It's Mapping the Freeman's Bureau. And this was done by genealogists Angela Walton Rowley and Tony Currier. And what they've done, they've gone through and mapped where all the bureaus are located. And what's another bonus here, they also documented where the Freedmen banks were. So let's look at the map. Let's find the map. Let's look at a map. I'm rusty with my fingers. Oh, let's look at the map. I think you go here. Okay, and then when the maps, here's the Freeman Bureau field offices. Now we just talk field offices. When you go into Freeman Bureau, you're going to see administrative office, but the field office is where you're going to see. We're going to view the map. So you go to the map, you turn on it, and the map's going to come up. Now in your area, you may say like you live in Climax, Georgia. I don't know. I'm not from Georgia. You're going to go and fish around in this map. And see how these, let's look at one in Americus, Georgia. There's Blakely. That's one of my areas. I'm finding stuff in there now. What I'm doing, and you can do, we'll talk about that. When I find stuff, it may take forever, but I go through the whole thing. Like they said, you have all the time in the world until you die. Let's look at Macon's. No, we don't want to do a superintendent of education. I don't want to do that. Now there you'll see, because what they did, they put all the office. Let's look at. I was in Atlanta. That's what I'm looking for. This will work. Let's look at Perry, Georgia. Now take a close look. When you go to this map, what it's going to do, it's telling you, see where it says National Archives Publication. It tells you the real film that it's on, okay? And here's what they do. You click on that, and it's going to take you to a website, archives.org, which is free, or Internet Archives. And here's what's here. The books that I just showed you, they are all here, okay? I'm not going to go through this, but if you scroll through this, it takes you to that field office. It's going to go through, and I'm not going to do it here. Let's go through something if I can get to it. It's going to go through the books I told you about, and in front of every reel, and I would read this. This gives you a thorough explanation of the Freeman's field office. And every row has that book I just described. You go through it, and then what they do here, I just learned this a few months ago. They actually have digitized this microfilm. They have this website, and this website is free also. They have digitized. What I like to do, I'm old school, and I go out to the archives because I don't know, sometimes I can see microfilm better, and I just scroll through. But this is all explanation. They're telling you what you're seeing now. I'm going through real quickly. This is describing what's on each roll. So you can go, and then, ta-da, they actually have the records. These are the Freeman's records. This is the film. This is from, so we're all old, young. We're young, old people, so we got a long time to scroll through this stuff. I challenge you to scroll through the film for all your sake. All right. So you got that. Mapping the Freeman's Bureau takes you here to where the films actually are. Okay? Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay. Now, I just showed you Internet Archives, or archives.go, where they have filmed all of the records. You can find the complete set for every state. And that book I showed you, this is key. You need to go to that if nothing else. This will give you a good explanation. They have it for each state. All right. Now, let's talk about what FamilySearch has. And the records on, let me get to FamilySearch. Okay, now let me show you how some of the field records are displayed in FamilySearch, the ones that they have indexed. So what you're going to do, you're going to go to FamilySearch.org, okay? And when you get there, it's going to pull up the screen that you see. Now, what it's going to ask you, and you're going to go to search. Now, what it's going to ask you, when you get there, it's going to ask you to log in to your account. If I'm already logged in, that's why I see this. When you get there for the first time, it's going to ask you to log in. And many people who research have accounts with FamilySearch. It's free, or if you don't have an account, it's going to tell you to create one. But it is free. But you have to do that. FamilySearch requires that in order to search their records. So when you get there, you're going to click on search. Then you're going to go down to records. And this is how I do it. You people who already on them may do. I go down to this little map over here, and I click on browse all publications. That might be a shorter way to do this, but this is where I know I can get in. And what's going to happen, it's going to bring up over here, filter by collections. And William taught me this. You just put in F-R-E-E-D. You don't even have to put in Freeman. See how, and when I put that in, it automatically pops up. Now where it says historical record collection, those are the films, those are the Freeman records that they have filmed, all right? My favorite one, let's do marriages. There's Mississippi, my things are highlighted that I've been looking at. All right, let's go down here because they have marriages. So let me show you. I'm going to click on marriages, right? And what I'm going to do, and you can put in a particular name in there where you see that says collection. But what I do here too, I browse all collections. So I'm just for demonstration purposes, I'm showing you this browsing all. You can just put in the names that you want. Okay, and let's do, I like Mississippi. And I click on Mississippi, and this is something I was up, everybody, these are all the names of the people that they have done something and digitized so you could see. So let's click on somebody. Let's click on January. And when you click on January, and they have something with somebody named January. So let's do Andrew. And there's Andrew's, and there's the marriage record for Andrew. So you see that? There's Andrew, January. It's in Natchez, Mississippi, him and Isabella. But this is a marriage record. And there's 2 on a sheet. So this is, this is one of my USCT guys. I got to pick him up. Okay, so that's how that works. Then you go back to January. You go back to Mississippi. And all of you know how to do this. You go to, and there's some more names. Okay, let's do one more. Let's pick up. This is what I was telling you about. I am working on this, and I'm working on Mississippi. I've been through, where am I? I'm down, let's go where I left off. I'm gonna go down here to the bees. I had finished the bees. Let's just do, I think I left off at Frazier because that's one of my surnames that I research. See if they got anybody. They got 2. Let's see who Eliza. I wish that was my Eliza. And then the record comes up. And there she is. Oh, bless her heart. This is Cleveland Frederick. And that's one of my soldiers. And he and Celius look like Dean are getting married. And 50, I don't know why Louisiana, Mississippi hung up. She's 1/8 white. I don't know how to decide that. Her father was black. Her mother was 1/4 white. And they've been married for 11 years. No, he was married to another woman, too. You see that? For 11 years. And they were separated by sale. This is just makes you mad. I don't know, heartbreaking, it makes you mad. And she was also married for 10 years to another man. And they were separated by sale. And from her marriage, when you read these yourself, I'm just going up, you can see, did she have any children? She had 1 boy from that previous marriage. And you wonder, was she able to keep up with her son? So anyway, that's how you do that. And of course, you go back over to the Freeman marriage and it brings up the whole thing. So you can pick your state and just go through them. But these are the ones from the roll that FamilySearch has actually digitized. They haven't digitized everything, but these are the ones that they digitized, okay? Okay, this has been a very brief overview, very brief, and I can make a recommendation to you if you want some more detailed information. The Atlanta Historical and Genealogical Society chapter will be having Tom Reed. Tom Reed is the proponent from FamilySearch. He is the person who did the project. He's the one that manages the project for indexing the Freeman's Bureau. He knows all about the Freeman's Bureau. And go to the OGS website, and the meeting is going to be, it's a virtual meeting, Zoom meeting on Saturday, June the 20th from 1 to 3. And what you're going to need to do, and you need to do it right away because there's limited attendance, I think only about 100, is go to the OGS website and ask for permission to attend the meeting, and they will send you a connection. The other place you can go, if Legacy Webinars, I won't show anything, but Legacy Webinars, most people are familiar, they have lots of webinars that they do once a week. And there's one in the Legacy Webinars, just Google Legacy Webinars, and Angela Raleigh does a very detailed presentation on the Freeman's Bureau. All right, so it has been my pleasure. Thank you very much, Sue. And lots more going on here. But I thank you very much and hope everybody kind of delve into those records. But let me caution you, I forgot to do this in the beginning. Before you jump into the Freeman's Bureau, do your basic research first, okay? By doing your basic genealogical research, you know the drill, collect the stories you know, do your census from 1940 back. Do that first. That'll be very helpful for you with names and to maneuver the Freeman's Bureau. Don't try to maneuver the Freeman's Bureau if you have not done your basic family genealogy research. Thank you very much. That's all I have, and everybody have a good day.
Awesome. Emma, we can't thank you enough for this. This has been fantastic. What a wonderful explanation. Really excited about this information that you've given, and I hope that it's been helpful. So let me share my screen just for 1 second, and just to let you all know, thank you so much for attending today. We've really enjoyed having you. Wanted to let you know that the History Center does provide genealogical programming. You can find out what we have coming up by visiting our website and looking at the programs page right here. We don't know when we'll be meeting again in person. We're going to have to wait until it's safe for us to do so, but we do hope to provide some more virtual programs over the course of the next month or two. And thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you're all staying safe and well.